present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Geraldine Jones in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much. Hello, and welcome once again to Just a Minute. And once more, just remind you of the rules of the game. I'm going to give them some unlikely subjects and ask them to speak for just a minute, if they can, on this subject without hesitation, without deviation, without repetition. And if one of the other three think the other's guilty of this crime, they may press their buzzer, and if I uphold their challenge, they will not only receive a point, they will also get the subject to speak on, and if I don't, the person who's speaking receives a point. This is the way we score. The rest of the game, I hope, will become obvious to you as we play it. So let us begin this particular game with Kenneth Williams. All right, Kenneth?
Yes.
Good.
I suppose it is.
Well, Kenneth, here's a good subject for you to start with. Can you try and talk for just a minute on the best hour in the week? Starting now.
The best hour in the week is the one when you can sit back and forget the cares of the world and throw off the mundanity, throw off the dross, and switch on your radio and listen to the magic, dulcet, beautiful tones of Kenneth Williams. What better relaxation can there be? To sit back and be transported into a world of blissful forgetfulness. Ah, I hear you say, would that I could bid this moment stay. Oh, would that I could enter into this great beauty. You write me these lovely letters. I say no, no, do not thank me. It is enough.
Derek Nimmo has challenged you. I'm awfully sorry to interrupt the flow.
Repetition.
Kenneth, Derek, why do you challenge?
Repetition, no.
No, I think...
No.
Getting a little bit negative there. So you've, Derek...
It's a shame, that, really. I was throbbing away there.
Yes, I know you were.
It was so exciting.
We could feel it very, very... Derek Nimmo, you have gained a point. You have 18 seconds left for the best hour in the week, and you start now.
The best hour of the week is when one is able to turn off one's radio set and shut off the awful noise of Kenneth Williams' dulcet tones, carolling forth with our curiously and odd and strange.
Kenneth Williams...
Hesitation. Curiously and odd came very, very much later, didn't it?
You don't have to convince me. Yes. Sorry, Kenneth. You have another point, and you have 6 seconds left for the best hour in the week, starting now.
When you hear my voice, even a line like she walks in
Derek
beauty...
Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Repetition. We've heard his voice before.
You undoubtedly have heard it to great effect, but you didn't hear it in this particular sequence of Kenneth speaking, so it's still with Kenneth, with another point and 2 seconds to go, starting now.
She walks in beauty...
Clement Freud, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
I know you haven't spoken yet, Clement, but that's trying a bit too hard, I think. Kenneth, you have another point, and you have 1 second left for the best hour in the week, starting now.
So let us pour it all
Geraldine
out.
Jones, you challenge. Why?
You haven't heard my voice before.
Well, we've heard it now, Geraldine. And I don't know whether to give Kenneth a point for just hearing Geraldine's voice or not. Shall I, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. They're your friends. All right. Kenneth Williams, you have half a second left for the best hour in the week, starting now.
So pour it all out.
Who does that? According to the rather involved rules of the game created by Messeter, Kenneth Williams gets an extra point because he was speaking as the whistle went, so he now has 5 points. And we go on to the next round, which is Derek Nimmo. And Derek, it's your turn to start speaking on what to take away for the weekend. He's just writing it down, listeners. What to take away for the weekend, starting now.
Well, it all depends which end is the weakest. With me, my Achilles heel happens to be my nose. You may wonder why I call that my end. In fact, one might almost call it a point. But if one turns one's face up very high towards the heavens, then you will see this is the extremity of my body. My nose has always been really rather weak since the moment that I was tripped up as a wolf cub by my senior sixer, and I fell onto the floor and broke my nose. This was a cause of great sadness to me, and a great protuberance grew where my old nose had been.
Geraldine Jones, you challenge. Why?
He hasn't told us what he's going to take away with his nose yet, so deviation.
Yes, it's what to take away for the weekend. So Geraldine Jones has 37 seconds starting now.
Personally, I should prefer to be the thing that is taken away for the weekend, but if I have to go on my own, then I suppose I choose fairly mundane things, preferably people.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, all right, Derek Nimmo, you see, I try to be as fair as I can, so you've got it back, you've got an extra point, and you have 18 seconds for what to take away for the weekend, starting now.
Potato crisps, sausages, tomatoes, apples, sleeping bags, little tents, campfires, bags of paraffin, bottles of lemonade, beer, sherry, whiskey, sarsaparilla, dandelion and burdock. Horace Picklewick, who was a great friend of my mother's.
Clement Freud, you challenged just before the whistle. What was your challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
Horace Picklewick is a human being, and it was what, not whom, to take away from the weekend.
That's true. Yes, that's absolutely true.
A very clever challenge, Clement, and I think it fully justifies a point, and you got in just before the whistle, so you have a chance to make another one, because you have half a second for what to take away for the weekend, starting now.
Cider.
So, at the end of the second round, Kenneth Williams still has his lead with 5 points. Clement Freud and Derek Nimmo both have 2 points, and Geraldine Jones has 1. And Geraldine, it's your turn to begin. Here is a subject which is very difficult for anybody. Speaking to the income tax man. Can you try and talk for just a minute, starting now?
I don't suppose really that speaking to the income tax man differs significantly from talking to any man. Even though his profession is rather an unpleasant one, the same rules apply. You first of all have to decide what sort of personality he has. You must...
Clement Freud.
Deviation.
Why?
They have no personality.
As I'm sure that we all wish to keep on the right side of our income tax man, I will give you, Clement, a bonus point for a very clever challenge, but keep the subject with Geraldine Jones, who now has 45 seconds left for speaking to the income tax man, starting now.
Contrary to what Clement Freud says, they do in fact have a very distinct personality. Often, of course, this is...
Derek Nimmo.
Often. Hesitation.
Hesitation is correct. Speaking to the income tax man, Derek, starting now.
This is the one thing that I've never really managed to do, but if I did speak to him, I should speak to him gently, quietly, and persuasively. I should look at him with wide-eyed innocence. I should hand him paper bags filled with bills, which I had taken from one of Clement Freud's.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
The subject was deviation. The subject was speaking, not what sort of paper bags you're going to take.
Derek, can you very, very briefly justify your paper bag?
Well, I've got my script in the paper bag, you see.
That
I
is
needed to
reading
look
to
at
the
the script.
Actually, Derek, I did hear you
speak to
say
the
that you were going to have a lot of bills stuffed in your paper bag, so I think out of your own mouth
But you see,
convicted yourself.
But those were friends of mine, bills, you see.
You can all
You're
be
going to help
clever,
me with
but
my
there are
case.
certain rules I have to try and stick to. Clement Freud has the point and the subject with 17 seconds left for speaking to the income tax man, starting now.
I say, one says.
Derek Nimmo.
Repetition.
I say, you're right, yes. And with an extra point, Derek, speaking to the income tax man, starting now.
How are you, my dear fellow, I would say? How awfully nice to see you in such good health. How's your wife and children?
Clement Freud.
How? Repetition.
Yes. There were 3 hows. Yes, he's not an Indian, is he, after all? Clement Freud, you have 7 seconds left for speaking to the income tax man, starting now.
Entering his office, I say to him, what an exceptionally nice time of the year it is for paying my income tax. And he looks at me and says, feel...
Well, Clement Freud's income tax man has taken him into the lead. He's now just in front of Kenneth Williams, who is 1 point in front of Derek Nimmo, and Geraldine Jones is, alas, still trailing a little. Clement Freud, it is your turn to begin. Getting the best of an argument. I'm sure this is a subject you can talk very eloquently about, but just a minute will do, starting now.
So the income tax man says to me, on no account can I listen to what you're saying because it is utterly untrue, at which point I fox him with a careful verbal thrust.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Hesitation.
Hesitation is correct. Derek Nimmo has another point. It's your turn to start on getting the best of an argument, 22 3/4 seconds, starting now.
Put up your fist, you varlet, I cry. You dirty swine, you pig.
Kenneth Williams.
Well, that's deviation. That's nothing to do with getting the best of an argument. That's fisticuffs.
It is, alas, one way of getting the best of an argument. So, Kenneth, what I will do is to give you a bonus point for a very clever try, but leave the subject with Derek Nimmo, who has 19 seconds left for this subject.
Could I have a bonus point for sitting next to him?
We'll all... I don't know whether that's a compliment or an insult.
Just a very clever try, I think.
All right, Derek Nimmo, 18 seconds left. It's gone down, isn't it? 19 seconds left for getting the best of an argument starting now.
I kick him to the floor. I crunch his head in the dust. I get hold of an umbrella and...
Geraldine Jones.
Well, I was swinging the umbrella. I just brought it back to hit him.
You nearly hit Geraldine Jones. And that's... I hope that's not the reason you challenged, was it, Geraldine?
No, I challenge on deviation. This is not an argument, it's assault and battery.
You could have had it... Geraldine, you have a point, and you have 13 seconds left for getting the best of an argument starting now.
Nobody ever gets the best of an argument, actually, by...
Clement Freud.
Deviation.
Why?
She's just denied the whole question.
I was in
Getting
the
the
middle
best of an argument. No one gets the best of an argument.
We only have one lady here with you three men. I'm going to ask if she can justify that. Geraldine, can you? Very, very rapidly.
I was interrupted in mid-sentence. I was going to say, by arguing. And then I was going to say how you do get the best of an argument.
You can't get the best of an argument by arguing.
Negative.
You can't. Actually, I think logically, Clement is right. And so he has the point and the subject and 10 seconds for getting the best of an argument starting now.
Ideally, you do this by out-arguing the person who is opposed to you in this particular discourse, and nicely...
Kenneth Williams, you tell me.
Hesitation, of course. Hesitation there.
Kenneth, you have another point, and you have 2 seconds for getting the best of an argument starting now.
You get the best of an argument
Clement
by
Freud,
saying...
you challenge. Why?
Oh, hesitation.
No, it was not. Kenneth, you have 1 second for 1 second left for getting the best of an argument starting now.
By saying such a great... Oh, my God. That's got me back in the lead, I suppose.
Not quite. It's got you very close. You're 1 point behind Clement Freud, who's still in the lead.
Neck and neck.
Derek Nimmo's in 3rd place and Geraldine Jones is still in 4th place. Derek, it is your turn to begin on what to do for cold feet. The subject I hope you can speak about for just a minute starting now.
Of course, mustard baths are awfully useful, you know, really. Nothing more enjoyable on a cold winter's evening than to plunge one's feet into a warm, hot, piping, delicious mustard bath. And there you sit, above them, looking down at your feet in the mustard bath, all glowing and happy and well. Or, of course, you can twiddle them, or twiddle the toes which are attached to your feet. This I often do, reciting nursery rhymes at the same time, such as, there's the church, and there's the steeple, there's the preacher, and there are all the little people.
Clement Freud.
Repetition, too many theirs.
Well done. We've got another point in 30 seconds for what to do for cold feet starting now.
Having got that off my chest...
Derek Nimmo, why do you
Deviation. He's talking about his feet, not his chest.
Oh, yeah.
Well done, Derek. Another point to you and 20 seconds left for what to do for cold feet starting now.
Of course, it all depends how many feet you've got, in fact. I mean, sometimes if one gets a long steel rule and immerses that in hot water, that's one way of keeping at least 1 foot warm. Perhaps 2 if you have 2 steel rules. And if you have 3 wooden rules, you could put them in front of the fire, and therefore you would keep 3 feet warm. It all depends really on the way you approach the subject.
Oh, no, Geraldine Jones, you challenged just before the whistle. What was it?
Repetition of it all depends, really.
Very good.
No.
Very good.
Very good. So Geraldine has another point. She still has the subject. And she has 1 second left for what to do for cold feet starting now.
I suffer from cold feet.
Well, Geraldine, it is your turn to begin. Ah, yes, here's a nice subject. The times that I wear my bikini. Will you please try and talk for just a minute starting now?
I believe that it's the custom in convents for nuns to impose various forms of torment upon themselves from time to time for the betterment of their soul. Instead of using any of the...
Kenneth Williams, you challenge. Why?
Yes, with nothing to do with bikinis. We're in the
Wait.
I have a strange feeling we were getting to it. Were we going to get to it, Geraldine? Can you just justify it very rapidly?
Well, instead of mortifying my flesh in the way that nuns do, I mortify my flesh by putting on a bikini and looking at myself.
Well done. She's won it. She's definitely got another point. All right. So, Geraldine, you have 50 seconds left for the times I wear my bikini, starting now.
So the times I wear my bikini are those times when I feel oppressed by guilt, when I feel that my life has been following an aimless...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Deviation. I've never heard of anything so devious as mortifying her flesh. I mean, really, I think it's really absolutely
Well,
horrible.
all I can say is maybe Geraldine has this particular attitude to bikinis. Geraldine, you have another point, and you have 44 seconds left for the times I wear my bikini, starting now.
I stand in front of a mirror all alone and think how perfectly hideous I look. And this instills in me a very...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation, she's beautiful.
I will give you 1 point for gallantry, Clement Freud, and Geraldine Jones, you still have 39 seconds left for the times I wear my bikini, starting...
I don't see how you can give him a point for gallantry.
Don't argue with the chairman.
All right.
He was just being sloppy.
Well, I'm sorry.
There's nothing in the rules about points for gallantry.
Right, give Derek Nimmo a point for impertinence, and Kenneth Williams 1 for trying hard, and Geraldine Jones 1 because she's way behind. They've all got an extra point. So we're back where we started. Geraldine's still got her bikini on in front of the mirror somewhere. And you have 39 seconds still for the times I wear my bikini, Geraldine, starting now.
In justice to Clement Freud, it should be said that he's never seen me on one of those times.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge again.
Well, deviation. There can be no justice to Clement Freud.
I'm not going to give points all round again. I'm just going to say it's a jolly good laugh. The audience enjoyed it. We all did.
What's with a bikini?
I don't know. We'll find out in a second. Geraldine Jones, you have another point. You have 36 seconds left for the times I wear my... Gosh, she's been a long time in front of this mirror, hasn't she? 36 seconds left for it, though, starting now.
As I'm a rather arrogant person, it's very good for me to see myself looking so horrible, because this instills in me a humility.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Well, nothing to do with times I wear my bikini. It's still all the self and all this masochism and standing in front of mirrors and hating the look of it all. It's great. Nothing to do with the times I wear my bikini. Times.
You are concerned with the number, in other words, not just...
The times. Do you wear it in the morning or do you wear it in the afternoon? All that. That's what it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you think that Kenneth Williams' challenge is justified? And if you do... Geraldine Jones, I'm extremely sorry. I've done my best for you. You have very nearly caught up. You're well in the game again, so keep it up from now on, girl. And Kenneth Williams, you have a point, and you have 31 seconds left. You tried very hard, Kenneth, and you managed to pull it off. You have got this subject, and now you're on your own. Wait a minute, Derek.
Well, if he's managed to pull it off, he can't be wearing it.
Kenneth, would you like to put it on again? You have 31 seconds left. You're on your own. The times I wear my bikini starting now.
The times I wear my bikini are at night times in the privacy of my bedroom, because if I do it in the open air and the sun's rays get to my body, if I actually expose myself to the sun, I get this terrible skin... What?
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, deviation, all this exposing himself.
Would you care to justify your exposure very rapidly?
Of course. It's perfectly justified that, because if you were wearing a bikini, you would be exposing an enormous amount of flesh areas of
yes,
flesh.
You're quite right,
you
Kenneth.
Could have mountains of it all hanging there. Flesh.
Well, don't make it obscene, or else it will be deviation. So, Kenneth, you have another point. You have 16 seconds left for the times I wear my bikini, starting now.
So I wear my bikini, as I say, in the privacy of my bedroom.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
As I say, it's repetition. He's already said it.
He's already said it. As I say, is repetition.
It's a admission.
It's an admission.
True. I admit it.
So you want Clement Freud to have the
that's
bikini?
repetition,
Yes,
if
definitely.
that was.
Yes. Clement Freud, the bikini's with you now. It's been passed on.
Most
I hope it fits you. You have 13 seconds left for the times I wear my bikini starting now.
The times I wear a bikini are very, very few and far between. But it has occurred one summer's evening on the beach of Saint-Tropez when my own swimming suit...
I'm rather pleased the whistle went. I was getting very worried about what happened at Saint-Tropez. Anyway, Clement Freud, you had another point for speaking as the whistle went, and let me give you the score, which is... Clement Freud, now you have a lead of 2 over Kenneth Williams, who has a lead of 2 over Derek Nimmo, who is equal in third place with Geraldine Jones. I'm afraid we only have time for one more, and it is Clement Freud's turn to begin. The subject is collecting silver, Clement, and you start now.
Collecting silver is something that I've never done, but I've collected a number of other things which I shall tell you about because the subject...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge why?
Deviation, obviously.
Why?
He's talking about things that he... Other things apart from silver.
No, let me justify.
You're supposed to be talking about collecting
Clement,
silver.
yes, would you like to justify it?
Yes, I was going to talk about people who did collect silver. I was simply disassociating myself personally.
Yes, I think you're quite right. Yes, I think you're...
Low cunning, I would say.
Whatever it was justified. And Clement Freud, you have another point, and you have 52 seconds left for collecting silver starting now.
A man called Hamish McConaughey of my acquaintance does collect silver, and I intend to tell you about him to some extent, or to put it another way for 39 seconds which remain. Hamish McConaughey is a merchant...
Kenneth Williams, you challenge why?
It's all deviation. It's totally irrelevant. It's nothing to do with collecting. It's a load of rubbish. This Hamish bloke doesn't exist. He's just making it up. It's all padding. It's just padding.
Clement, I allowed you to justify it last time. Can you very rapidly again justify your Hamish McDonagall or whatever his name was?
23A Hatton Garden. And I should think his solicitors will call on Mr. Williams.
We can only wait until the next game to find out if what Clement Freud has said is correct. Until that, the threat of solicitors is enough to let me give it back to Clement Freud. And if he's wrong, he will lose 2 points at the beginning of the next game. So, Clement, you have another point, and you have 40 seconds for collecting silver starting now.
No comment.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Oh, hesitation.
Yes, you're quite right. And you have the subject of collecting silver with for 38 seconds starting now.
The most important thing to look for when you're collecting silver is, of course, the hallmark. Collecting silver...
Geraldine Jones, hesitation is correct. You have 33 seconds left for collecting silver starting now.
Collecting silver is something usually done by men in churches. For some curious reason, it's important to collect silver on green baize trays. You can't collect it on an ordinary plate, perhaps because the noise would impinge too harshly upon the holiness of the service.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge...
Hesitation.
Why?
Well, there's a gap between one word and another word. Room to get your scissors in, as they say.
All right, Derek Nimmo, you have the subject with 11 seconds for collecting silver starting now.
Sixpences and shillings, francs and pesetas, all these lovely...
Clement Freud, you challenge one.
Pesetas don't come in shillings. I mean in silver. I'm sorry.
You're quite right. What a clever idea.
They are in a silver colour.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Oh,
They are in Uruguay.
After this program, if anybody has got any silver Uruguayan pesetas, we'll be very pleased to receive them, and we'll produce them as exhibits at the next show. And if Horatio, what's the name of that man of yours in Hatton Garden?
McConaughey.
Harold? No.
No.
What's it? Hamish McConaughey.
Can't remember it now. Can't remember.
And if Hamish McConaughey is listening to this program, we'd like him to come and watch the next recording of this show, because we would like to produce him and prove somebody right or wrong, which I cannot do at this moment. But for the rest of this game, there are only 7 seconds left. Clement Freud, you have the subject, collecting silver starting now.
A pap bowl is a very good thing with which to start a silver collection because it was made over the years by silversmiths of virtually...
Well, that, alas, is the end of this particular game of Just a Minute. And to give you the final score... well, this is very, very interesting. Because in second place, we have 3 people. Derek Nimmo, Geraldine Jones, and Kenneth Williams are all equal second. And they are just 4 points behind this week's winner, Clement Freud.
chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch. We present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud and Andree Melly in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much indeed. Hello and welcome once again to Just a Minute. Well, as you just heard, four superb players of the game are going to compete in this battle of wits and try and speak for just a minute on some unlikely subject that I will give them without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. Going off the subject anyway. And they will score points or otherwise according to how well they do it. Well, let us begin this week with our only lady competitor, Andree Melly. Andree, would you try and talk on the enticing subject of gossiping, starting now?
Gossiping is lovely, and I just don't believe people when they say they don't like it. When someone comes to you and says, "Isn't it dreadful? Have you heard?" I believe everybody's eyes light up with a glint of malicious pleasure. My own family are absolute addicts. We have...
Derek Nimmo, you have challenged. Why?
Hesitation.
Yes, I think there was a slight hesitation there. So you take over the subject, Derek, of gossiping. You gain a point for a correct challenge, and there are 40 seconds to go, starting now.
I am an inveterate gossip. Every morning I go to the lady who lives in the cellar next door to me. Her name is Mrs. Melly. I knock at the door.
Clement Freud, why have you challenged?
Repetition.
Of what?
He goes there every morning.
The longer they play the game, the more clever they get at devising challenges. I think I must definitely uphold that. A very well-won point, Clement Freud. There are 35 seconds left for gossiping, starting now.
Gossiping is the passing on of uncompulsive information, like how is...
Andree Melly, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
I think there was a hesitation. You have 30 seconds for gossiping.
Now it's 5 minutes.
And we haven't heard from you yet, Kenneth Williams, but your time will come.
Sorry.
Andree Melly, you have the subject, gossiping, 30 seconds, starting now.
Have you any SBs, my brother says to me, which means spicy bits of information? This is an expression I don't think used in other families. Men are...
Derek Nimmo, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, alas, yes. That means you get another point, Derek. You have 20 seconds for gossiping, starting now.
I once went to see this lady and I said to her, "How are you today? Isn't it a lovely day?" She said, "I want to tell you something."
Clement Freud challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, alas, yes, because I think it was his natural eagerness which was overcome by his natural hesitation. And there are 14 seconds for you, Clement, to carry on with gossiping, starting now.
What do you know about the Boy Scouts? Well, hardly anything at all. Do you know anything about the Girl Guides? I know a little bit about the Brownies.
Derek Nimmo, you challenged twice.
Repetition. Too many youth movements.
Another clever challenge which gains Derek a point. Actually, there are an awful lot of littles, too.
But they're all
there?
different youth movements.
They're all different ones, but as yours was a clever challenge which won a point, I think it's only fair to give one to Derek. Derek, you have 7 seconds for gossiping, starting now.
I think one of the best ways to gossip, really, is to go...
Clement Freud.
Repetition. Too many words. I think it's true.
And
You've
Derek
upheld
got
every other stupid challenge, so...
Well, all right. So the stupid challenges managed to give Derek Nimmo another point, and he has 3 seconds left for gossiping, starting now.
I think one of the most fascinating
Andree
stories...
Melly, you challenged.
Hesitation.
Yes, Andree, you have a point. There is 1 second to go for gossiping, starting now.
Women are supposed...
For those of you who may be new to the game, I must explain that whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains another point. Clement Freud, will you begin the second round with Seaside Postcards? Try and talk for just a minute, starting now.
These are pieces of cardboard which are habitually bought by the seaside, Brighton, Bournemouth, Lowestoft, Yarmouth and Galston-on-Sea being particularly favoured for the purchase of these. You get mottos and indecent caricatures, invariably making people wish that they were there rather than where they are. The sort of message you get would be, wish you were here. This is a particularly interesting and entertaining thing to write on them. The charge by the post office for these is 4p.
Andree and Melly, why do you challenge?
It's very boring.
Boring or not, why do you challenge in just a minute?
Oh, because it's deviation. It's,
No, you're
it's supposed
too
to be
late.
amusing.
Very cleverly tried, Andree, but I'm afraid I must still be with Clement Freud, who has another point, and 27 seconds for Seaside Postcards. Clement Freud starting now.
I once received 4 Seaside postcards from the French.
Andree and Melly, why do you try?
Repetition, because he got 4.
All right, you're so close last time. And they've all had a clever challenge, which I So,
He'll sulk. He always sulks when he gets up.
he's, Andree, for your clever challenge, it's 25 seconds for Seaside Postcards, now with you, starting now. Derek Nimmo, your challenge.
A hesitation.
Yes, Seaside Postcards, 24 seconds for you, Derek, starting now.
Seaside postcards are generally fairly vulgar, I'm happy to say. They usually have little mottos on them like, oh, what a lovely pair. And you turn over and there's a lovely picture of some fruit in a bowl. And then you write on them messages to your dearest friends. I always send a Seaside postcard to my Aunt Beatrice. Her address is 14 Place Utrecht Avenue, Prestatyn, North Wales.
As Derek Nimmo was speaking when the whistle went, he gains an extra point and keeps the lead just in front of Andree Melly and Clement Freud. And Kenneth Williams, will you begin the third round with the subject of curiosity? Will you try and talk on that subject for just a minute, starting now?
Curiosity, it is said, once killed the cat, and many people are against it for this reason. They seem to think that curiosity is an unhealthy sort of thing to indulge in. But of course, the fact remains that curiosity is a very healthy thing. Why else, indeed, would Columbus have gone all that way if he hadn't been... at the other end? The same thing could be applied, of course, to Copernicus and indeed Galileo, because they thought the world was round as opposed to the opinion current at the time that it was flat, and that if you went to a certain place you would fall off. On the other hand, of course, some people say, oh, what's in there? And they're told, mind your business. You see, I have had this happen to me frequently. I have been very curious on more than one occasion and have had my fingers wrapped for it, you know. And there's a disgrace because everyone has the right to be curious and should be healthily encouraged in their curiosity.
Well, once Kenneth Williams has a go, he really has a go, doesn't he? He's got in there with a vengeance, and he's the first person to manage to speak for a full 60 seconds without being interrupted.
Have I leapt into the lead?
No. I'm just about to give you a bonus point for having
lovely.
spoken for the full 60 seconds.
Lovely.
So you have leapt into a definite 4th place. But no doubt when you get in a game, you will surge further ahead.
Yeah.
And, Derek Nimmo, your turn to begin. Making the bed. That is the subject that's been chosen for you. 60 seconds will do for you to talk on it, and will you begin now?
Making the bed is something I do know quite a bit about, and I use the definite article advisedly. What I always do when I'm making the bed is I get into my motor car and I drive up to Ullswater, and there on the banks is a particularly beautiful coniferous forest. I go into the forest with my little saw and I cut down 4 pine trees. I'm making, as you probably guessed, a 4-poster bed. I cut the pine trees down and I peel all the bark off the pine trees and I... Hesitation.
Yes, it was so fascinating, Derek's bed, that I'm reluctant to leave it, but Clement Freud definitely has him for hesitation. 30 seconds with a point to you, Clement. Making the bed starting now.
Ideally, you start with a mattress, which you turn, after which an underblanket is placed on the right side of it, and the sheet is then placed, and upon it a pillow and a pillowcase, and in some cases 2 pillows.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition of cases. pillowcases, and some cases.
All right, we'll be with you this time. It's only fair. Sometimes I have to give a second's pause and think, who shall I give the benefit of the doubt to? I've given it against Derek once, so I'll give it back to him this time. And there are 13 seconds for making the bed. Derek Nimmo starting now.
So back I drive to the capital city, clutching with me my 4 pieces of wood. I then carve them into beautiful shapes. One, I put little cherubs all over, actually, and then cover it with plaster, which they call gesso, actually, in the trays. And then I paint it angels.
As Derek Nimmo was speaking when the whistle went again, he gains an extra point there, and he's making his lead quite a commanding one. Clement Freud, will you start the next round with a very definite subject concerned with cooking, duck clippers? There are 60 seconds for you to talk on this, starting now. Derek Nimmo, you charge.
I haven't
Hesitation.
started.
I know you haven't, and you didn't get off in time. Derek Nimmo, 57 seconds for duck clippers, starting now.
Duck clippers are absolutely essential. Anyone who has webbed feet will know that it's terribly important to keep the scales well clipped.
Hesitation?
Yes, a hesitation. You have 47 seconds for duck clippers now, Clement, starting now.
If you have a duck, then you might find it essential to use clippers to
Andree, Melly?
Hesitation.
Yes, duck clippers goes to you now, Andree.
Right.
Will you begin now?
Duck clippers. This is 2 words. The first one is spelled D-U-C-K. And as everybody knows, it's a certain kind of bird, there are various types, which can swim on the water. You can find them in the Serpentine or perhaps in Regent's Park. They fly in a particular V-shaped...
Hesitation.
Yes, will you take back duck clippers? 25 seconds left, Clement, starting now.
Dissecting the wing from the animal is the first purpose to which you put your clippers, after which you attack the legs. As a result of wielding these aforementioned utensils, your serving dish now has upon it a couple of wings, 2 legs, and the breast carefully dissected.
Derek Nimmo, why do you charge?
Dissecting twice. He dissected it before, and then he's dissected it again. So that is repetition.
Yes, it is. I was just trying to remember whether he had said dissecting twice, and I think you are
did,
right. So you have another point. You have 3 seconds for duck clippers. Derek, starting now.
Actually, there's very well-known
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. You have 2 seconds for duck clippers. Starting now.
The liver is a very excellent thing.
So, with the benefit of the doubt on that round going to Clement Freud, he's taken a lead of 1 over Derek Nimmo. And Kenneth Williams, as we haven't heard from you for a time, it is your turn to begin again. Let's hope we can have a repeat performance for the most dreadful thing that ever happened to me. Kenneth Williams, will you talk on that subject starting now?
The most dreadful thing that ever happened to me was in Ceylon, and I was sitting in this military establishment, and I must tell you that all the walls didn't quite meet the ground. There was a gap for the air to come in, and I was supposed to be typing. I was doing this, and I heard the hissing noise, and I thought it was a bit of paper blowing from the draft under these walls, you see. And I felt, when I looked up, to my horror, a cobra staring me in the face. I was appalled. It certainly was the most dreadful moment I've ever experienced. And my voice all seemed to shrink, and I said, "Sir, sir, sir." I'm finished.
Yes, need you say it, but I think you should.
No, but I feel rotten, because I want to know what he said.
Oh, we can't let 3 sirs go. No,
I thought not.
I'm afraid your sir, you were so feeling it, weren't you? You'd forgotten. That, so... Andree has a point. She has 26 seconds for the most dreadful thing that ever happened to me, starting now.
When I was 7 and at boarding...
Clement Freud, why?
Deviation.
Why?
I want to hear Kenneth Williams.
All you've done is make Andree Melly, who doesn't listen with us every week, feel absolutely rotten.
Oh, he didn't mean to.
And
He
also
didn't mean to.
it is-
He's lovely, don't think.
For those of you who will listen at home, I must point out that Kenneth Williams and Clement Freud do sit side by side in this game.
Yes, it's a blandishment. It's only a blandishment.
Steady on. Some people might misinterpret that word. Andree Melly, you have another point, because that challenge was unjustified. You have 24 seconds for the most dreadful thing that ever happened to me, starting now.
I was caught.
Clement Freud challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. So, Clement, you get another point, and the subject with 23 seconds for this subject starting now. Clement,
Hesitation.
With a little blandishment from Clement Freud, then, Kenneth Williams gains a point. He has 22 seconds for the most... I must point out that Clement Freud is so keen to hear Kenneth Williams finish about his sir, that he has helped him gain a point, and the subject with 22 seconds for the most dreadful thing that ever happened
just
to me.
another point. Well, is he allowed to press Kenneth Williams' buzzer?
Whether he's allowed or not, he's done it. Kenneth has a point, and he has the subject, and he starts now.
Well, I was telling about this cobra, and I said, sir, because the commanding officer was next door, and he came to me and said, what,
Andree, Melly, you have 15 seconds left for the most dreadful thing that ever happened to me starting now.
Got caught stealing the toads out of the toad in the hole when I was at boarding school. Well, I hid them in my hanky at the bottom of the garden, and the geography mistress found the hanky because it had my name Melly attached.
Hesitation.
Yes, you have 2 seconds left for the most dreadful thing that ever happened to me starting now.
The school cook gave me spots.
Derek, Nimmo, it's your turn to begin. Derek, things I do when nobody's looking. That rather strange subject has been thought up for you, so I think you should have a second to think about it. So we get off on the right foot. And, Derek, would you begin now?
Well, of course, actually, I'm a great lamppost banger. What I do is I go along the street with my umbrella and I tap these pieces of street furniture. I go 1 on the first one and I go 2, 3 on the second and 3, 4 on the third. And sometimes when I'm sitting at home and I think nobody's looking at all, you'll be surprised when I get up to I recite nursery rhymes all by myself in a darkened room with a glass of gin in one hand. And I say, little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet eating her curds and whey. There came a big spider and sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. And then I give myself a round of applause.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Repetition.
Of what?
2 ways.
Oh, look, I'll tell you what. Now, I think this is one of those...
Oh, no. The
Yes.
audience... It's a pro-Nimmo audience.
It's a Well, we'll see. We'll put it to the test, because I don't want to be the judge on this one because of the ways. If you think that Clement Freud's challenge was justified, will you cheer? And if you think it was unjustified, will you boo? And will you all do it together now? Their way is the Derek Nimmo way today. And so, Derek, they're with you. You have another point. You have 5 seconds for things I do when nobody's looking, starting now.
Sometimes I sit in a disused air raid shelter and I count. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Andree
7.
Melly, why do you
No,
try?
repetition, because he was counting with those lampposts.
Indeed, he was counting with his lampposts.
yes.
So, Derek, Andree, you have another point, and you have 17 seconds for the subject starting now.
I pull faces in the mirror. I like doing that quite a lot. I wouldn't dream of doing it if there was anybody there. I like to walk around with nothing on when it's nice and warm. Doing the cooking, like a certain television program I saw on that subject. And then I talk to my...
Kenneth Williams.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. So, Kenneth, there are 3 seconds for you to tell us what things I do when nobody's looking, starting now.
There's no point in doing things when nobody's looking, because the whole point is just doing when somebody's looking.
Well, at the end of that round, the position is still the same. Andree Melly, will you begin the next round with famous last sayings? That, I think, needs a second's thought. So, having given you time, will you please start now?
The most famous one, I suppose, is Nelson, who said, "Kiss me hardy." I never really quite knew why. And another one I know is my great-uncle Willie, who just before he died said, "Oh, hell," and then went. I can never understand about this famous saying thing, because I think when you're busy dying, I can't think how you have the time to think up something to say. And I believe that people really think before they die what they're going to have people say they said when they did.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Famous last sayings is with you, Clement. There are 26 seconds.
Sorry.
Derek, Nimmo?
No, just an accidental twitch.
Accentual. 26 seconds left, starting now.
People, when they are about to go, tend to think... Oh.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Your twitch was in time that time. There are 21 seconds for famous last saying starting now.
The Lord Paget, who became the future Marquis of Anglesey, when he was dying, of course, by that time he was indeed ennobled, even further ennobled, he was actually a Marquis. What he said was very interesting. He said, "Would you please give me a large cup of green chocolate?" And the funny thing was...
Well, at the end of that round, Derek Nimmo has caught up 1 point behind Clement Freud, who's still in the lead. Clement Freud, will you begin the next round? My most important discovery. We're having a lot of long ones in this particular game. That's the subject, Clement. 60 seconds to talk about it starting now.
My most important discovery was America, which I discovered 23 years ago. I got off a steamship, landed, and said to a man who met me, "Are you an American?" And he said yes. And he's...
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Hesitation. My most important discovery. 45 seconds starting now.
My most important discovery was Clement Freud. I had not realized until I actually was confronted with a genuine, dissipated, decadent Clement Freud that such nasty things existed in the fair city. It was to me a tremendous shock and something which I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've never quite recovered from. He arrived, I remember, on this very stage, covered in green soup.
Clement Freud, why you...
Deviation.
Why?
We'd met long before this.
Not. Never.
Yeah, I'm prepared to believe Clement Freud. He has another point. He has 21 seconds for my most important discovery starting now.
"Are you Clement Freud?" said the American. "Yes," said I. "I have been discovered," said the American. And this has gone down in many books as an epic event.
Derek Nimmo.
Hesitation.
Yes, my most important discovery. 12 seconds starting now.
The interesting thing about him, too, is that he wears shirts. They are usually shirts that don't have a tie. Sometimes he does wear one, but not very often, really. His trousers are rather mud-stained. His shoes are never polished.
So, Kenneth Williams. A good subject for you, I'm sure, Kenneth. My first audition. Can you discourse on this for 60 seconds starting now?
My first audition occurred when I was at school, and we were required at the end of one term to get up and speak a poem in the language we had been taught at the school. I mean, that is to say, apart from one's own language, obviously taught. And I got up on the stage and I declaimed, "Ich weiß nicht, was soll es bedeuten, dass ich so traurig bin, ein Nation aus selben Seiten, das kommt mir nicht aus dem Sinn. Die Luft ist kühl und ist dunkel und ruhig fließt der Rhein, der Gipfel des Berges funkelt in Abendsonnenschein, der Schiffe im kleinen
Clement
Schiffer."
Freud, why do you challenge? Clement Freud, you've challenged.
Repetition.
Of what?
Hat ja zu oft gesagt, ich weiß nicht. Deswegen musste man sagen, dass es zu oft gesagt hat.
Was machst du?
Ik bijna was uten, kleine schwulten, uit seine Fürsten. For all those of you who don't understand German, I must explain
Nor do
that
we.
that Kenneth Williams has won a point. That I'm still with Kenneth, you have a point. You have the subject still, and 31 seconds for my first audition starting now.
And then we had to do a piece in English, and I did the bit about the barge. She sat in like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, so perfumed. The winds were lovesick with them. For a very own personally decadent description, she'd lie in a pavilion, cloth of gold of tissue, or picture that Venus where we see the fancy outwork nature. And Andree, a friend of the marketplace, to sit alone, whistling to the empty air, which but for vacancy had gone to gaze on Cleopatra too, and made the whole one boy. Did I get in?
In the middle of your flow, Andree Melly challenged. Andree, why did you challenge?
A deviation, because it's meant to be his first audition and he's giving it now.
It was. I had to do it in English and in German, my first audition.
Sure that Kenneth is so brilliant he did his first audition exactly like that.
Thank you.
Kenneth, you have another point.
Yes?
There's still 10 seconds left for you to go on about my first audition starting now.
Well, at the end of it, they were absolutely staggered. Stunned would probably be a better word. And I immediately was asked to join the Tavistock Repertory Players, and I did. And the first part was a footman. Well, you wouldn't hear as much of a part, would you? But it hadn't.
Well, that, unfortunately, is the last round, and if you'd known that, as I knew it before we began the round, you'd have realized how tense I was if you weren't. So let us say that Kenneth Williams came a very good fourth, Andree Melly was an excellent third, and Clement, Freud, and Derek Nimmo came a very fine equal first. Congratulations to our two winners.
Chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch. We present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud, and Andree Melly in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, welcome once again to Just a Minute. And in Just a Minute, these four clever people will try and speak for just a minute on some unlikely subject that I will give them without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation, going off the subject in any way at all. And they will score points or otherwise according to how well they do this. So let us begin this particular game with Kenneth Williams. What to do with your vitality? That is the subject, Kenneth. Will you try and speak for just a minute, starting now?
Well, there are many views on what people should do with their vitality. Some people go to gymnasiums to work off their excess steam.
Derek Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Deviation.
Why?
Well, it's a little correction. Gymnasia.
Well, all right. All I can say is here that while you are correct, I think colloquially a lot of people do say gymnasiums, and Kenneth Williams, your ums are giving you a point, and so you have 1 point for me not upholding that challenge, and you continue with 50 seconds for what to do with your vitality starting now.
Yes, and Andree...
Clement Freud, you challenged.
His arms.
His ums.
Well, it ruined me. It ruined the whole intellectual flow.
Yes. So having stopped in full flow, you couldn't get going.
Ludicrous.
You couldn't get your vitality going.
No.
Could you, Kenneth? So as Clement Freud's challenge is upheld, I then grant him a point, and he has 47 seconds for what to do with your vitality starting now.
One of the finest things that you can do with your vitality is go and see Derek Nimmo perform at the theatre, where he comes on in a pair of boots and prances around the stage, and the audience applauds and cheers and shouts encore.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
This has nothing to do with what you do with your vitality. It's just a plug for Derek Nimmo.
And you are jealous of your friend giving so much to Derek Nimmo. I agree, it sounds a very relaxed way to enjoy yourself watching Derek Nimmo. So, Kenneth, I grant you a point, and you have now 2 points, and you have 32 seconds for what to do with your vitality starting now.
What you should do with it is to channel it, and preferably, of course, channel it.
Andree Melly, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
I think it was. I'm sorry, Kenneth.
Well...
You didn't exactly stop, but the sort of contortion of words was such as to interpret it as hesitation. So Andree Melly has a point, and she has 28 seconds for what to do with your vitality starting now.
Go in for different sports, like football, skiing, swimming's very nice.
Kenneth Williams. Andree Melly has another point because she didn't hesitate.
Yes, she did. Most certainly hesitate. They all heard it. No wonder I never win it. He's partisan. He's definitely partisan. You can see him openly now here.
You won it quite recently. Kenneth Williams, you won it handsomely quite recently. You are brilliant at playing to the audience.
What's that, Buzz?
That's
I'm buzzing deviation. He didn't win it handsomely.
Kenneth Williams won it. He can play to the audience. You can't challenge on an interruption. Andree Melly has another point, and she has 23 seconds for what to do with your vitality starting now.
Get up early in the morning and do exercises in front of an open window. Breathe in deeply then touch your toes, jump up and down a bit, and then have a cold bath. That'll give you even more vitality.
Derek Nimmo. Hesitation that time, yes. Derek, you have 12 seconds for what to do with your vitality starting now.
Well, I don't know what you would do with your vitality, but I know what I would do
Clement
with
Freud.
mine.
Deviation, if you don't know what...
That's one of those... You were all against Clement for a little while ago.
No, I've never been against him.
All right. Well, that clever challenge, I give the benefit of the doubt. That's any way I can put it to Clement Freud, who has another point. He has 8 seconds for what to do with your vitality, Clement, starting now.
Race around a football pitch, which is about 480 yards, and when you pass the goalpost, jump up and down...
Derek Nimmo, why
Yes,
you done?
because he's talking about what he's doing with his vitality. The question is what you do with your vitality.
This is advice to my people.
I actually did say to him what to do with your vitality, Clement, starting now. I think he was justified in interpreting the quotation that way. So Clement has 2 seconds for what to do with your vitality, Clement, starting now.
Sprint back along the Greyhound track.
For those who may still be a little vague about the scoring, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Clement Freud, who now has a lead. He's actually got 4 points. Kenneth and Andree Melly have got 2. Kenneth and Andree Melly. Sounds like a double act, doesn't it? Kenneth Williams and Andree Melly. Derek Nimmo's got 1, and Derek, you begin the next round. Changing the guard. Derek, that's the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
I always start changing the guard at Edge Hill Station. This is a station near Liverpool, which is in the county of Lancashire. I go along there with 3 friends, armed with stout cudgels. We go down and meet the 4:37 train as it arrives on the platform. As the train stops on the platform, we go and pull the guard out from inside his carriage. He gets so surprised, you have no idea how surprised he gets. And then we proceed to change him. The last time we were changing the guard, we turned him into the...
Andree Melly.
Hesitation.
Yes, yes. It's a pity. I'd love to know what they did there. So, Andree, you take over the subject, having gained another point, with 23 seconds for changing the guard, starting now.
Christopher Robin liked watching this very much and went there with Alice to see the changing guard at Buckingham Palace every afternoon after tea.
Derek Nimmo.
Deviation. She is talking about watching it, not changing it. The subject is changing the guard, not watching the
Yes,
changing
but
of
she
the
was
guard.
not watching it.
No, but Christopher Robin was.
Christopher Robin was, and it is still the subject of changing the guard, whether you're watching it or doing it, or even being as devious as Derek Nimmo, physically taking a British Railways guard off and putting other clothes on him, which is a disgusting thought.
Yes, absolutely.
Derek Nimmo. Andree Melly has another point, and there are 12 seconds left for the change of the guard, starting now.
When you have an open fire with coal and wood burning and you have a small baby, it's very advisable to change the guard in front of it, which you
Derek
had
Nimmo,
before.
why do you challenge?
But how many guards has she got?
I don't know, but she's gained another
Deviation,
point.
you see. She's only changing 1 guard, she's changing 2 guards.
She's changing the guard
From
in front
one
of
to
her...
another.
I'm on your side, Andree. She's changing the guard in front of her fire. There are 4 seconds left for the subject. She's gained another point, and she starts now.
I have a small one, and when my baby was born,
So the changing of the guard puts Andree Melly into a very definite lead over all the others. She's now got a lead of 2 over Clement Freud, who's in second place. Clement Freud, you're going to begin the next round. How to make your own gin. Clement, would you talk on that subject for 60 seconds, if you can, starting now?
This is an entirely illegal thing to do unless you get permission from the proper authorities. Therefore, in order to make your own gin, you write to the customs and excise authorities demanding permission to install a still in or about your premises.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Still, hesitation.
I think the only fair thing to say, it was a very clever try. I won't award any points for that, and just ask Clement Freud to continue with 45 seconds for how to make your own gin, starting now.
In the fullness of time, the commissioners will write back to you giving you permission to do so, provided that the returns are submitted every week. And you go out and purchase juniper berries, pure alcohol, sugar, and distilled water, which is essential to the exercise. You also go to a chemist shop and buy alcohol, without which the gin will not be as pure or as strong as it ought to be. You then have to decide whether the gin you prefer is gin which is dry or the...
Andree, Melly, why do you...
Repetition, there are too many gins.
Yes, that is perfectly right. So Andree has the subject, and she has 13 seconds for how to make her own gin starting now.
And the slightest idea.
Derek Nimmo, your challenge.
Deviation isn't the slight side of it.
Derek, you have a point. You have 12 seconds for how to make your own gin starting now.
How to make your own gin is the subject of this question. What I always do is I go along to the blacksmith and I ask him for a piece of steel. I take along and I put it in the forge and I beat it with a heavy hammer.
As Derek Nimmo was speaking when the whistle went, he gains another point. He's now equal in second place behind Andree Melly. Kenneth Williams, who's trailing a little, will begin the next round. Kenneth, things I write in my diary. Can you go on for 60 seconds on that subject starting now?
Well, I can go on 60 seconds, but I don't know that I can be entirely frank. And, of course, that is the reason why I put these things in my diary. My diary could be called something of a father confessor. And I think it's very delightful to be able to put certain things in your diary which you couldn't possibly say in real life. How often one's dying to say, "Oh, you great bore, shut your mouth." But, of course, you can't. But in your diary you can, and you can put as much acrimony and spleen into it as you like. And needless to say, mine is full of it. I've known to stick pictures in it. I stick bits out of the newspaper in it, along with my very pungent comments.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
The question was things I write in my diary, and he's now sticking pictures into it.
Yes, that is perfectly correct.
Yes,
it is.
it's true. He's got a point.
He's got a point in more senses than one, and he has the subject with 17 seconds for things I write in my diary starting now.
The things I write in my diary are invariably quotations from Shakespeare. Oh, that we now had here but 1/10,000 of those men in England is what I put on January the 15th. On the other hand, October the 11th to be or not to be.
So, Clement Freud's diary, written in the future, puts him into first place, exactly equal with Andree Melly. Derek Nimmo, will you begin the next round, preparing for the worst? That is the subject, and will you start now?
I always enjoyed preparing for the worst. I actually started doing it about 7 weeks, 3 days.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
But Clement Freud buzzed.
Well, with me simultaneously.
You mean Clement Freud is handing it over to you? Or?
No, I'm sorry for him first, but I'll give way. I certainly give way. That's the second part of my nature.
Well, I must go by the lights that come up here, Kenneth, and Clement Freud's light came up first, so Clement Freud has the subject preparing for the worst starting now.
What I do when the worst come to dinner is to prepare for them. I burn a potato soup. For this I use onions and butter, which I leave overnight in a saucepan until the water turns sour. Add stale flour and sour cream, and with this my guests are usually entirely satisfied. I then go on to the fish course. The fish, they say when they come to my house, is off, and they mean this in more meanings than one.
Kenneth Williams, why do you
Repetition, meaning.
They said...
More meanings than one must be repetition.
Yes,
More meanings than one must be repetition. Kenneth, I pause because I'm in great doubt about it, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and 21 seconds for preparing for the worst, starting now.
The thing to do is to get your sandbags and preferably knit them yourself, because then you know they are reliable, and mount them in a great bank until you have ample protection from any kind of blast or other misfortune that may be in the air. Then get yourself plenty of tin stuff in case you can't get out in the open.
Andree begins the next round. The subject is the ideal man. Andree, would you give us your ideas on this subject for just a minute, starting now?
The ideal man is my husband who brings me breakfast in bed without the toast 3 inches thick one side and dwindling to a mere burnt nothing the other. Of course, an
Kenneth
ideal...
Williams, why you tell?
Deviation. We're talking about the ideal man, not making toast.
We're getting slightly to the stage, Kenneth, where as long as you challenge, the audience will applaud.
I have been challenged for ages.
I know you have, and that's why they applaud. Kenneth, I'm going to give you the slight benefit of the doubt on that. And you have another point, and you have 43 seconds for the ideal man, starting now.
The ideal man is something nobody can envisage. I'm being put greatly at a disadvantage here with Clement Freud towering over me. Some sort of psychological...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Well, the subject is the ideal man, and he's talking about Clement Freud.
To many people, I'm sure that Clement Freud could be the ideal man. So, therefore, their challenge is not upheld. And Kenneth Williams, whether you agree with that particular statement or not, have 30 seconds to continue talking about the ideal man starting now.
The ideal man, being ideal, of course, cannot be visualized on this earth, but the nearest you will get is, of course, myself.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation. We've already established that I am the ideal man.
Clement Freud, I must tell you that we have definitely not established that. And I definitely said you might be some people's idea. And that might, some may be small or large, I have no doubt. There might even be Ian Messiter or Derek Nimmo. So... might even be that man in the audience.
That man was
Kenneth
Mrs.
Williams
Nimmo.
has another point. And Kenneth, you continue for another 20 seconds on the ideal man starting now.
The ideal man should embody the qualities, of course, of truth and goodness and beauty.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Yes, he was so getting carried away with his ideal man, and that he lost that one on hesitation. There are 11 seconds for you, Derek Nimmo, on the ideal man, starting now.
The ideal man should have hair on the top of his head, then have 2 eyes, eyebrows, a nose, 2 ears, a mouth, a good set of teeth.
Kenneth
a
Williams,
chin.
or what?
Always features.
Yes, well done. You have another point, Kenneth Williams, and you have 4 seconds for the ideal man, starting now.
The ideal man is something approximating to the
Andree, Melly, why do you challenge?
He said the ideal man an awful lot of times.
I know.
Repetition.
I know, but you are actually, Andree, allowed to say the title of the subject of
Each
the card.
time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. What happens, dear?
Don't be vicious, Kenneth.
Well,
It doesn't become you.
I'll get off the ground.
You've got another point.
Yes, I get worked up my intellectual flow.
Yes.
I'm all intellectual flow.
And when we come back, your intellectual flow is gone. You only have 3 seconds to gather up your intellectual flow. Gather it up, whatever it is, Kenneth. And for 3 seconds, talk about the ideal man starting now.
The ideal man will materialize if I were able to walk into a mirror. And then I would know.
Well, that final narcissistic thought of Kenneth Williams makes him, he really has. He hasn't said it himself, I'm going to say it for him. He has leapt into the lead!
Joy to mankind.
Kenneth Williams, we want you to do as well as you have been doing, and the subject is absolutely in keeping with this now. It's where I get my inspiration. Your face has gone a pale green.
Well, it's so complicated.
Yes, well, all right. Just have a little thought about it, because I must be fair, and start talking on the subject now.
Yes, I usually get my inspiration from books and the sayings of great men. I often reflect upon the saying of Voltaire, I disagree heartily with what you say, but will defend to the death your right to say it. And what an inspiration that has been to me. And indeed, what an inspiration it has been for all democracies, as you know. Democracies, not of course in the sense of American democracy, which I don't think are democratic at all.
Free democracy.
Clement Freud has challenged you, Kenneth. Can I just interrupt you?
Repetition.
Of what?
Democracy.
Yes, all right. I just want to make sure we know what we're talking about. 30 seconds for when I get my inspiration, Kenneth Freud. Kenneth Freud. I've done it again. I said 2 weeks ago they were going to announce their engagement at the end of the series. I've now married them off. Clement Freud. You needn't give the audience the impression it's already happened, Kenneth.
I'm looking at you in time.
Well, don't change your affection so rapidly. Clement Freud, 30 seconds for when I get my inspiration, starting now.
I usually get my inspiration from Kenneth Williams, from the firm line of his lips, his clear eye and his twitching nostril, and somehow I find that intellectually I work that much better and that much harder. Kenneth Williams is an inspiring man to anyone wishing to make a career.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition of Kenneth Williams.
Yes, we've had rather a lot of Kenneth Williams in that round. Not only did Clement, I think he did jolly well to keep going, because I must explain to the listeners that Kenneth Williams was breathing down his ear hole the whole time. Anyway, he said Kenneth Williams 3 times. Derek Nimmo spotted it. He has 12 seconds for where I get my inspiration, starting now.
I go to get my inspiration to the middle of St. James's Park, and I sit on a bench and I watch the ducks swimming so gently round the clear, grey, muddy water.
It's a very interesting stage we're at, because for once all 4 of them are very close, and there's only about 3 or 4 points that separates any one from the other. This is the last round, so it's very exciting. Derek Nimmo is going to begin it, and we've got a long subject for him: what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bathtub. I'm sure Derek Nimmo can talk very ably on that subject. And 60 seconds will do, Derek, starting now.
I would like now to tell you what I do when I get my big toe stuck in the bath tap. I shout, help. And if nobody hears my cry, I lie back, and in my hand I have Kenneth Williams' diary. And I read it, and I look at all the pretty little pictures he's stuck in there, and you've no idea how entertaining that diary is. Other things I do, rather, is I have a little dish of food, which has been then...
Clement Freud, why are you chasing? No, I don't think so. No. He was just naturally playing to the audience. Derek Nimmo, you have another point, and you have 31 seconds for what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bath tap, starting now.
And as I lie back in the water, I think...
Clement Freud, why...
Deviation. He's talking about himself. The question is what to do.
Well, I'm lying back.
Well, what to do if you get
stuck,
your...
you can't do much.
All right, Derek, I can justify it. What to do if you get your big toe stuck in the court, in the bathtub. So if it's your big toe, it must be what he's doing. So Derek Nimmo has another point.
Yes.
And he has 29 seconds for what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bathtub, starting now.
I lie back in the rapidly cooling water.
Kenneth Williams.
He couldn't lie back if he had his big toe caught in the tap, could he?
You don't know Derek Nimmo's big toes. And a lot of people who've seen them feel that he could do more than even lie back. So Derek Nimmo has another point. He has 26 seconds for what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bathtub, starting now.
And I think to myself, what fun it would be to go on to Edge Hill Station and get hold of the guard on the 437...
Deviation, Edge Hill Station's got nothing to do with catching your foot in the tap.
I'm thinking about what I'm doing.
He's thinking what he would do if he got his big toe caught in the bathtub. So I think it's all... I think I must give him the benefit of the doubt for the last time, and he has 19 seconds for what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bathtub, starting now.
And I think how awfully nice it would be...
Clement Freud.
Well, if that was the last time we were giving him the benefit...
Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, will you be the judge in this impossible situation that I'm regularly placed? Do you think I should give the benefit of the doubt to Clement Freud? If you think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, now cheer, and if you disagree, will you boo, and will you all do it together now?
Yes, the cheers had it, the cheers.
Kenneth Williams is always the judge. He's utterly partisan. Clement Freud has another point. He has 18 seconds for what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bathtub. Clement, starting now. What? Derek Nimmo, challenge.
Deviation. I don't think that Kenneth Williams ought to be able to award points to his fiancée.
You're Absolutely right, Derek, absolutely right. But as Kenneth Williams is not officially engaged to Clement Freud, he is not awarding points. So I'm still with Clement Freud. 19 seconds for what to do if you get your big toe caught in the bath tap. Starting now.
What to do when you get your big toe caught in the bath tap is to have it amputated. You shout and get someone else to ring to get phone for the...
Andree Melly.
A hesitation.
Yes, indeed there was. Andree, what would you do if you got your big toe caught in the bath tap? Last 6 seconds coming up, starting now.
What I would do if I got my big toe caught in the bathtub is to get hold of the soap and rub the whole of my foot with this soap, including the toe.
Well, that whistle was the final whistle, and what an interesting result we have. It really was, for the first time, very nearly a draw for all. But let me read backwards. I prefer it because I can't read forwards. And Kenneth Williams will start acting to the audience. They might concentrate on what I'm saying. Because the result of the game is that Kenneth Williams and Andree Melly are in a very commanding 4th place. And 3rd place, equal. And just 1 point ahead of them, in 2nd place, is the one and only Derek Nimmo. And just ahead of him, only 2 points, is this week's winner, the unique Clement Freud.
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The program was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hash. We present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Amy MacDonald and Clement Freud in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you very much. Hello, welcome once again to Just a Minute. And as you heard, we welcome back once more the lovely Amy MacDonald to try and do battle with these 3 clever exponents of the game. And they're all going to try and speak, not all together, but separately, on some unlikely subject for just a minute, without hesitation, without repetition, and without deviation. And according to how well they do this, they will score points or otherwise. So let us start off this week with Amy MacDonald. Amy, would you try and speak for just a minute on the subject of how to be good, starting now?
Well, it depends very much on what you want to be good at. If you want to be a good doctor, then you go to school and then you go to university for a very long time. And if you work very hard and...
Clement Freud, you've challenged. Why?
Hesitation.
Hesitation, alas, yes. Clement Freud, there are 44 seconds left for how to be good, starting now.
The best way of being good is by not being bad, by cutting out one's dirty, vicious and nasty habits, looking up towards the heavens and promising to put sin in its right place and plight oneself to all the right things in life.
Derek Nimmo, you've challenged. Why?
Hesitation.
Yes, I think there was a slight hesitation there. Derek, you have 26 seconds to talk on how to be good, starting now.
Well, when I feel particularly good, I go to my wardrobe and I take out my good suit. And I put that on. It's particularly lovely.
Kenneth Williams.
Deviation. This is not about goodness at all. Good suits, good doctors. It's not about the subject. How to be good. That's the subject. It's all deviation.
You make your point with such emphasis, Kenneth. Well, all right, Kenneth, I will award you a point, and you have 19 seconds for talking about how to be good, starting now.
The way to be good is to follow one's conscience. This has been proven historically. That is the only way in which you can be good and lead a proper life. Ask yourself daily at the end of the day how
Clement
much...
Freud, you have challenged. Why?
Repetition.
A repetition of what?
Ask yourself daily is repetition.
I think the only fair thing to do here for that rather clever challenge, Clement, is to give you a point for cleverness and leave the subject with Kenneth Williams, who continues with 4 seconds on how to be good, starting now. Derek...
I haven't started.
Hesitation.
Was it you?
All right, yes, 1 second has gone, so probably, and Kenneth didn't speak, so you have another point, Derek Nimmo.
And
you have...
hitherto I've regarded him as a friend.
Perhaps you'll have a chance to get your own back, Kenneth. Derek Nimmo, you have 3 seconds on how to be good, starting now.
I think the best way to be good, Rather, is to read the second chapter.
He just fixed it so that he was speaking without...
I should explain for those who may not know the game too well that whoever is speaking when the whistle goes actually gains an extra point.
Yeah, and didn't he know it?
That was Kenneth Williams referring to Derek Nimmo, who has a slight lead at the end of the first round. Kenneth Williams, will you begin the second round for us? Something I'm sure you can tell us a lot about because you always seem to give this impression.
Yeah.
Kenneth, the subject is things I say when I'm happy. All right, I haven't said now. You have 60 seconds starting now.
The things I say when I am happy are manifold. I look in the mirror and say, you are Fabe, you really are. Yes, I'm beautiful, simply beautiful. When a rose sees me coming, it wilts. Oh, my physical charms are so ample. I set Ellen of Troy an example. Those are the sort of things I say when I'm happy. I've even been known to do the odd dance. I do the odd pirouette, you see.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation is things when I say. I mean, things I say when I'm happy.
And he's
Not
some of the
dance.
things he does,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
right,
yes,
Clement
right,
Freud?
yes.
You have a point. And Kenneth Williams has admitted defeat, and there are 33 seconds for things I say when I'm happy, Clement, starting now.
I usually look in the mirror and say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all? And my mirror, who is extraordinarily honest, says, Kenneth Williams. This is a blow, but in no way stops me from my natural flow, so that I go to my small wife and my large children and say, little ones, I have words to say unto you. I am cheerful and optimistic.
Kenneth Williams.
There's a definite hesitation.
All right, Kenneth, all right, yes, you've got a point. And you have 5 seconds left. You ready?
What's the
Kenneth?
subject?
Things I say when I'm happy,
Yeah.
starting now.
And then I often...
Clement Freud, you challenge.
Hesitate.
No, there was no hesitation. Less than half a second when Kenneth Williams has another point. Are you standing by, Kenneth? I have to warn you, I think it's must watch out, you know. And things I say when I'm happy, starting now.
Well, fantastic.
Clement Freud, you challenge.
That was
That was hesitation, yes, indeed. There are 3 seconds left for you, Clement Freud, to talk about things I say when I'm happy, starting now.
It is a far, far better thing.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
I think you carried it too far then, Derek. I think to be utterly fair, it's still with Clement Freud. He has 2.5 seconds for things I say when I'm happy, starting now.
Send a victorious, happy and glorious locker room.
Well, as Clement Freud was speaking when the whistle went, he gains an extra point, and with the other points, some of which I think Kenneth helped him get on that round, he has taken a small lead at the end of the second round. Derek Nimmo, will you begin the third round for us? My favourite zoo animal. Can you talk on that subject for 60 seconds, starting now?
My favorite zoo animal is Mr. Blenkinsop. He is the attendant in the reptile house. His Christian names are Clement and Kenneth. He was called the first name because his father was a tremendous admirer of Lord Attlee, and his mother called him by the
Amy MacDonald, you challenge.
Oh, deviation. Definitely he's onto politics now.
I thought about my gentleman.
Well, I think that was a very clever challenge, Amy. So we give you the subject now of my favourite zoo animal with 41 seconds left, starting now.
Oh, at last. And my...
Derek Nimmo.
Deviation, she said, now at last. She wasn't talking about the
And also hesitation, yes, yes. So, Derek Nimmo, you have another point, and you have the subject back again of my favourite zoo animal, and there are 39 seconds starting now.
And his mother called him Kenneth because she was frightened by the wind and the willows. One of the interesting things about this chap in the reptile house, every day when he comes out, he has little packet of sandwiches with him, and when he opens it up, you'll never guess what's inside. He has a copper
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Deviation, this is nothing about my favourite zoo animal.
Kenneth Williams, you have the subject. You have 26 seconds for my favourite zoo animal starting now.
My favorite zoo animal is, of course, the elephant. Where else in the world do you see such lugubriously good-natured things? Only...
Derek Nimmo, why
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Derek, you have the subject back of my favourite zoo animal. 14 seconds left, starting now.
The subject of my favourite zoo animal actually is a very interesting one because people have different opinions of what is exactly their favourite.
Kenneth Williams, why do you...
Deviation. People have different opinions. There's nothing about what we're talking about.
They can have different opinions about the zoo animal. I think it wasn't quite justified, Kenneth, so Derek Nimmo has another point. There are 6 seconds left for my favourite zoo animal, Derek, starting now.
So, in the reptile house, he opened a packet of sandwiches.
Clement, why do you challenge?
I don't know, I didn't seem to have said anything for a long time.
You're absolutely right, you haven't for quite a long time. Maybe the subject's inhibiting you in some way, Clement. But all that happens is that Derek has another point, and there are 4 seconds for my favourite zoo animal, starting now.
And he has a very dear wife, and they went to Bognor for their holidays this year.
Amen, Mr. Donald, why...
Deviation.
Yes.
Bognor. I mean,
Yes.
Deviation for hours.
If I may say, we're still talking about my favourite zoo animal.
And you've been going on rather
It's
too
been
long.
established
Amy MacDonald
and
has a point for
agreed.
deviation, and there's 1 second left for my favourite zoo animal, Amy, starting now.
my favourite zoo animal.
At the end of that round, Derek Nimmo has a lead of 1 over Clement Freud, and Kenneth Williams is in 3rd place, and Amy MacDonald is in 4th place, and Clement Freud, it is your turn to begin. Clement Freud, the common touch. Will you discourse on this for 60 seconds, starting now?
One of the commonest touches I ever made was when I went to my bank manager and said, "How do I stand for an overdraft?" And he said, "You don't, you grovel." As a result of this... As a result of this, I got no money at all, so I had to make another common touch. I raised my right hand and placed it firmly on Mr. Kenneth Williams' left knee, which many of you will agree is a pretty common touch. As this is the subject, I'm allowed to repeat it yet again, a common touch. But there are many other actions.
Kenneth Williams.
Hesitation.
Yes, indeed, there was, yes. I thought a little while ago when you were rather hysterical, it was also rather devious. 25 seconds, Kenneth, for the common touch, starting now.
This is a phrase which I take to mean if you can keep your head when all around are losing theirs and still retain the common touch. These are, of course, the words of the poet.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
If you lose your head, you have nothing to guide your hand.
A very clever challenge, Clement, but that was your common touch that you were talking about. We're on to a different type of common touch that Kenneth Williams is talking about. So Kenneth has another point, and he has 6 seconds for the common touch, starting now.
And in a way, the man that wrote those lines did indeed have the common touch because he had mixed with princes and great statesmen and...
Since Kenneth Williams joined us, he's used a phrase which has gone to many people's heart. Have I leapt into the lead? And this time he has leapt into the lead.
Oh, joyful day.
Alongside Derek Nimmo.
Oh.
And here's a good subject for you to talk on as you're fully worked up. The subject is pulling faces. Having pulled a very good one at your thought of it. Kenneth, would you talk on pulling faces starting now?
This is something I frequently do in front of a mirror, and I have been assured by men in the medical profession that it is very good for the skin because you make it even more elastic with each, so to speak, acrobatic gyration to relate with your face or your facial muscles, as the men of medicine would have it. Now, the pulling of the face obviously is generally to achieve a comic effect.
Freud, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, I'm afraid. I must explain.
No, I was demonstrating.
I know. He was demonstrating, but I'm afraid it still means a pause in this game. If all of them were to demonstrate some of the subjects they'd had, we'd be in a very queer street by now.
I've been in a queer street for ages. I see your point, actually. And I do think you're a very good chairman, actually.
I'm overwhelmed. Anyway, at the end of all that, Clement Freud has another point. He has 25 seconds left for pulling faces, starting now.
You get your face on a rack, putting one ear into a vice, and you pull at the other ear until the nose splits down the middle.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Absolutely disgusting.
Yes.
Horrid, revolting, degrading.
No need for filth, is there?
Absolute degradation.
However
Typical of the
filthy,
man.
degrading, revolting, obnoxious it may be, within the context of the rules of the game, it is not devious, and therefore I must still be with Clement Freud, who has another point, and he has 17 seconds for pulling faces, starting now.
As you engage your right hand in the left ear,
Amy MacDonald, why do you challenge?
Who's talking about hands and ears now? Deviation.
Very good. Putting his hands in his ears is very devious, isn't it, too? Amy MacDonald, you have 13 and a half seconds for pulling faces, starting now.
Well, the best way and the easiest way is to get a bit of plasticine, you see, and make a little face on it. And then you can pull it all sorts of different ways, see? And in doing this, you can have all hours of entertainment.
Derek Nimmo, a very erudite subject for you. What Socrates said. Can you talk about that for 60 seconds, starting now?
Socrates said many things of tremendous import and fascination. One of the things I suppose that he's most remembered for, really, was one of the things he said just before he died, when he said, "Before I take this poison, I am going to bath myself, to spare the women the toil of washing me down when I'm dead," which I really think is a terribly nice thing to do, don't you? And most considerate and kind. Also, every morning when he used to get up, he used to look across the water and say, "Oh, look at the wine-dark sea this morning." It was quite a catchphrase at the time. Terribly popular it was around there. And other things that he used to say were, "Hello, what ho," and the Athenian for Hong Kong.
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
deviation.
Why?
He didn't say what ho.
Who am I to say that
really
he said...
didn't.
How do you know?
Well, you could always say, because they didn't speak English, he didn't say what ho, so who am I to judge on such a subject as that?
Oh, come
All
on,
right.
what ho, really?
What ho?
In ancient Greece, what ho?
Listen, probably
sure
the
it's a bit of
colloquial
so.
translation into modern English of some Latin phrase is what ho. So, audience, would you like to tell us what you think about this what ho business? If you think that Clement Freud's challenge was justified, will you please cheer? If you think it was unjustified, will you boo? And will you all do it together now? Derek Nimmo, your what ho gives you another point, and you have 20 seconds for what Socrates said, starting now.
Towards nightfall, he used to stand on the rock and say, "Honk, honk."
Kenneth Williams, why do you...
Deviation.
Why?
Towards nightfall, he used to stand on the rock. We're talking about what Socrates said, not where he
Well, what he
stood.
did. All right, Kenneth, you have another point. You have 16 seconds for what Socrates said, starting now.
What he actually said was trip over to craggy Ithaca, where the
Derek
UA...
Nimmo, why did you challenge?
Hesitation.
Derek, you have another point, and you have 11 and a half seconds for what Socrates said, starting now.
My dear wife, would you...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Hesitation. Clement, you have a point, and you have 10 seconds for what Socrates said, starting now.
What ho, I must get into my bath.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Well, obviously, you challenged it formally. How can he now repeat it?
I lost. It was ruled that he did say what ho.
So, Kenneth... I think you didn't quite understand what the challenge was.
Yes, he did.
Did he?
Yes.
All right, Kenneth, by not paying attention to the game, Clement Freud has another point, and there are 6 seconds, Clement, for what Socrates said, starting now.
He also said,
Kenneth Williams.
Hesitation.
Kenneth, you have another point. You have 5 seconds for what Socrates said, starting now.
He said, trip over from that very quickly, the ancient Grecian Spartacus, where the UA Ulysses, the wax or stuffy idiot drove in order to pass the siren safely.
And I thought Kenneth was right. That was perfect Latin he was speaking in the end, and that's exactly what Socrates said. So, Kenneth, you have increased your lead somewhat. You now have 2 over the rivals. Clement Freud wants to say something.
deviation. Socrates was Greek.
What did I say?
Latin.
But you see, all Latin is Greek to me.
Yeah. I thought it was rather plebeian.
Well, Mr. Plebeian Freud, it is your turn to begin the next round for us. And there are 60 seconds for you to talk on the subject of judging a baby show starting now.
This is something which I have been asked to do from time to time. It involves looking at children who mule and puke in public places. You take their limbs one by one and begin by counting...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Well, I think it's a disgusting load of filth. Take their limbs one by one.
So you're challenging on what score?
A deviation, of course.
Yes, if you're going to dismember them, that is deviation.
Exactly.
So, Kenneth, you have the subject. There are 47 seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
What you go by when you're judging the baby show is health, a general appearance, of course, natural features like lovely blue eyes and blonde curls. So after health and disposition and...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition after health. We had health before, do you see?
All right, Derek, you have a point. You have 32 seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
I love judging baby shows, actually. It's one of the fascinating things that one is asked to do sometimes, right? And you get all these beautiful children there in front of you.
Amy MacDonald, why do you challenge?
Well, he stopped talking about babies and he's talking about children now.
Yes.
Yes, very good.
Deviation.
All right, Amy, you have another point, and you have 23 seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
Well, I never...
Clement Freud, why do...
Hesitate.
Amy MacDonald has another
I'm
point. She
only
didn't hesitate.
breathing.
No, it's all right. You have 22 and a half seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
What?
No, she... has another
Hesitation.
hesitation. Well, all right, Clement, you got it this time. There is 1 point to you. 21 seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
It is essential that all children should have 10 fingers and 10 toes, otherwise their chances of success...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Luke, nobody could have 10 fingers.
You're quite right. You were certainly paying attention that time, weren't you?
Yeah, I've never heard anything like
No.
10 fingers.
Have 10 thumbs next.
Yes, exactly.
So,
That's
Kenneth, there are 16 and a half seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
After the general appearance of the child, and as I say, the disposition of the child, you next consider the way he speaks. If he
Clement
speaks...
Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation is a baby show.
Yes, we've had it. I've given it once. I must give it again. Yes, we're talking about babies and you're onto children. So Clement has another point. Clement, Freud, there are 9 seconds for judging a baby show starting now.
It is essential there are 10 toenails and also 10 fingernails, all of which should be in good condition.
Kenneth Williams.
This is disgusting. We don't want to be at fingernails and toenails. It sounds like a positive witch's cauldron, the whole thing.
Why are you challenging?
Because it's deviation.
Why?
Disgusting.
Why is it devious?
Load of
Quickly,
filth.
tell me in 10 seconds. Why is it... You can't challenge him for filth.
Oh, well, because I want to speak then.
I don't think you're justified. Clement Freud has another point. There are 4 seconds left for judging a baby show, Clement, starting now.
It is usual to have at least 4 judges, some of whom are male and some female.
At the end of that round, it is a very exciting situation. Kenneth Williams still has the lead, but only 1 in front of Clement Freud, who is only 3 in front of Derek Nimmo. Amy MacDonald is trailing a little, but now comes her chance with the subject of the last time I played hockey. Amy, I'm sure you can tell us a lot about that. 60 seconds will do, starting now.
Well, the last time I played hockey, a very strange thing happened. You see, we were all assembled on the field and about to start to play, when all of a sudden, the captain, the hockey...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Hesitation, alas.
It wasn't
I was stuttering, I didn't...
Yes, but she said the cup captain.
know. I
And it
just
was her
thought-
cup captain, you see, so she has another point, and there are 47 seconds for the last time I played hockey, Amy, starting now.
Well, the last time I played hockey, as I said, a very funny thing happened.
Derek Nimmo.
Repetition, as I said.
Yes, that's a clever challenge, which I can only award to you, Derek. There are 45 seconds for you to take out the subject. Are you quite finished playing with Amy MacDonald?
Put me down.
If you'd like to put Amy MacDonald down. Now, will you talk about the last time I played hockey? Derek Nimmo, starting now.
The last time I played hockey, I said, ha, 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 ha.
Clement Freud,
Repetition.
of ha, ha,
Of
ha.
ha 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 ha.
Clement, the last time I played hockey, 40 seconds, starting now.
Was in a muddy Berkshire field where I went to school and was told to play in a purple and green shirt against another side which was called Bracknell. My position...
Amy MacDonald, why do you challenge?
Hesitation.
Yes.
I don't think I can give it to you this time, Amy. I'd like to. So, Clement Freud has another point. He has 29 seconds for the last time I played hockey, starting now.
My position was left half, and I was ordered to hit the ball to the right back in what was called a bully off, which we did with some skill. Our sticks went up and down, met two more...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition, sticks going up and down.
Oh, yes.
Very repetitive.
Yes. As I think this is the last round, and we want to make it as keen as possible, Derek Nimmo, you have another point. You have 18 seconds for the last time I played hockey, starting now.
I was on a patch of gravel in Farm Augusta in Cyprus. We only had 7 men on each side because we couldn't boast a full team.
Kenneth Williams, why
You
do
only
you...
had 7 men on each side. He wasn't playing hockey, therefore it's deviation.
Yes, indeed. He might, he was playing a very strange kind of hockey indeed.
Indeed it was. I bet his hockey is strange, too. I can tell you things make your hair curl, dear.
Well, you have 10 seconds in which to tell us about these things, Kenneth. Work them into the last time I played hockey, starting now.
The last time I played hockey, my heart was young and gay. I saw the blossoms in the field.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
I shouldn't think his heart was ever young.
Some people think that Kenneth Williams' heart is forever young and gay. So Kenneth has another point, and he has 4 seconds for the last time I played hockey, starting now.
And I saw the laughter of my heart in every street cafe. I saw the
Well, Kenneth Williams' laughing, gay heart has done something for him once again this week. I'll keep the surprise to the end. I'll read backwards and tell you at the end of the final round, Amy MacDonald came a good 4th, and a little in front of her was Derek Nimmo, who was in 2nd place. Clement Freud was in 3rd place. And this week's winner by 1 point, 1 precious point, was our Kenneth Williams. This week's winner.
We present Kenneth Williams, Derek Nimmo, Clement Freud, and Geraldine Jones in Just a Minute. And as the minute waltz fades away, here to tell you about it is our chairman, Nicholas Parsons.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Hello, welcome once again to Just a Minute. Let us begin this week with the person that we welcome back, Geraldine Jones. Geraldine, the subject for you is how best to colonize the moon. Can you try and talk on that for 60 seconds, starting now?
The only possible justification for the enormously expensive space exploration is the possibility that by indulging in it, we shall be able to colonize the moon with all the people we hate most. Top of my list would be people who write leaders in newspapers telling us what we should think, and close behind them would be the people who write letters to those papers beginning pompously, surely that your correspondent knows so-and-so, so-and-so.
Derek Nimmo, you have challenged. Why?
Repetition, so-and-so, so-and-so, so.
You're quite correct. That was a repetition, so Derek gains a point and he takes over the subject, and there are 30 seconds for how best to colonize the moon, Derek, starting now.
I think the best way to colonize the moon is to go off there on a little rocket, and when I landed, I would pitch a little tent and get out my billy can.
Clement Freud, you've challenged. Why?
Repetition.
What?
Little.
And I get yes, he did. He went a little rocket and he pitched a little tent. You're quite right. Clement Freud, you've gained a point. You have the subject. How best to colonize the moon, starting now.
The best way of colonizing the moon is getting hold of the Chinese and sending them all there, every single one of them.
Derek Nimmo, you've challenged. Why?
Repetition, every single one.
Every single one is repetition. I wouldn't know at all. I don't think it is correct.
600 million of them. It's very repetitive.
I think you're confusing it with...
It's a very clever challenge, Derek, but I think you're confusing the two issues of the Chinese who have been repeating a certain function to produce...
I think you meant reproduction, didn't you?
Well, the Chinese have been repeating their cells.
Yes, I know. But Clement Freud, in this instance, I don't think was repeating himself, so he has another point for having an incorrect challenge against him. He has 4 seconds for how best to colonize the moon, starting now.
The best way of colonizing the moon is getting the Japanese not to go there.
Kenneth Williams, will you begin the second round for us? The subject is evolution. Kenneth, can you talk on this vast subject for 60 seconds, starting now?
Well, roughly speaking, of course, this means the process of growth and development, you see, in the world. Of course, you could apply it to many things, but most of us think of evolution in terms of the world, you see, and how...
Derek Nimmo, you've challenged. Why?
Reputation of you sees.
Yes, there was two you sees, I'm afraid. Derek Nimmo gains a point. He gains the subject. 45 seconds left for evolution. Derek, starting now.
Evolution means the development of a particular species over a period of time, and it's involved...
Kenneth Williams, why do you...
A deviation doesn't mean that at all.
Well, actually, it can mean the development of a species.
Yes, he said it means that, meaning only that, because it doesn't, you see. You should have said that, otherwise it's not
I think
correct.
you're trying to browbeat me. You're trying very hard, but I'm not going to be browbeaten. There are 40 seconds for Derek Nimmo to continue on evolution with another point, starting now.
The best way to illustrate to Mr. Kenneth Williams what evolution really means is for him to get a jar of little fruit flies, and if he separates all the male flies from the lady ones and puts them in separate pots and then mixes them together...
Clement Freud, you buzz first. Why? Hesitation, alas, yes. Clement, there are 26 seconds for evolution with you now, starting now.
One of the lesser books of the Bible is, of course, called the Book of Evolution.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
It's so minute that it doesn't exist. Deviation.
Derek Nimmo has a point. Evolution, in that sense, is not in the Bible. Derek Nimmo, you have 21 seconds for this subject, starting now.
It's for the theory of evolution.
Yes, Geraldine Jones, you challenge. Hesitation. 20 seconds for evolution with you, Geraldine Jones, starting now.
Evolution is a development that has developed rather...
Clement Freud, you challenged.
Hesitation.
Clement, 17 seconds for evolution, starting now.
None of the books in the Bible are called the Book of Evolution. But had there been such a one, it might well...
Kenneth Williams.
Deviation is a supposition. We're concerned with evolution. He's saying, had there been a book
of evolution...
This is supposition. We are discussing evolution. We're not discussing supposition.
It's all right, Kenneth. You try and browbeat your points out of me.
Should I go on?
No, I'm going to give it to Kenneth. 10 seconds for you with evolution, Kenneth, starting now.
Evolution is in itself the most extraordinary example, historically, of the foolhardy nature of anyone thinking that the way things begin is the way they're going to end up.
As Kenneth Williams was speaking when the whistle went, he gains that bonus point. Derek, Victoriana, a delightful subject which I'm sure you can talk about very ably. 60 seconds will do, and starting now.
The Victoriana is one of those rather nasty words with the suffix ana attached to them, like Americana. But in this case it means an interest or a collection of things of the Victorian era, things peculiar to that particular period. All sorts of things, I think, can be described as Victoriana. For instance, Valentine cards. Although they were known before that period, they came into their real eminence during that particular passage of time.
Kenneth Williams, why did
Hesitation.
Hesitation?
Yeah.
I think you kept going fairly consistently. No. So Derek Nimmo has 32 seconds to continue on Victoriana, starting now.
St. Valentine, as you know, was a martyr which was killed by the Emperor Claudius II, and the commercialization
Geraldine
of the
Jones,
Valentine
why have you
card.
challenged?
Deviation.
Why?
Well, he's not talking about Victoriana
I
at
talk
all.
about Valentine
He's on
cards.
hagiology.
Yes, indeed. I consider that Geraldine should be given the benefit of the doubt. She has 25 seconds for Victoriana, starting now.
There are some people who believe that Victoriana is a dirty word which involves an obscene interest in all sorts of hideous...
Kenneth Williams...
Deviation. We're discussing Victoriana, not a load of filth. Come here with a load of filth. You don't want to hear it here?
Well...
People expect something decent, don't they, for goodness sake?
You made a very good point, and the audience are completely with you. I think I can only bow to their consideration of the situation and give a point to you, Kenneth. 19 seconds for Victoriana, starting now.
Well, they represent some of the most beautiful things you could possibly lay your eyes on. You've got your Albert Hall and, of course, your Albert Memorial. Now, what could be more lovelier than that? When you come upon the Albert Memorial, as I very often do...
Derek Nimmo, what a challenge.
Repetition, he came on it twice. The Albert Memorial.
But he came on the... He didn't come on, he didn't... What's
He said Albert Memorial twice. It's repetition. Albert Memorial.
I see, I thought you said he said, come on twice. He did say Albert twice.
I wouldn't do that, no.
So, Derek Nimmo, there are 7 seconds for you to continue. Victoriana, starting now.
papier-mâché objects were very popular during that period. They're made from waste paper, and they can be pressed in the shape of tables and trays.
Well, as Derek was speaking when the whistle went, he gains another point, and he's taken a lead of 1 over Clement Freud. Geraldine Jones, will you begin this round? Taking photographs, 60 seconds, starting now.
When I went to America, I was given a very expensive camera with which to take photographs. On the way out, I tried all sorts of different views of the ocean, upside down, sideways, long ways, from the left side of the boat and the right side in the morning and at night. All these photographs were so unremittingly boring that I swore never again to take any, and have since left the job of doing it to professionals. My best experience of how they go about it was when I had a picture taken of myself for a glossy magazine. I was led into a rather shabby room by a little man who was aided by minions.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation.
Yes, we'll never know what happened in that shabby room. What a pity. Clement Freud, baby, you've saved Geraldine some embarrassment. There are 27 seconds for you. Taking photographs, starting now.
Taking photographs is one of the instant ways into the aristocracy. Many men who have done this have ended up in Buckingham Palace, no less, and some of them in Westminster Palace, no more. I should like to say that I myself have only a cursory...
Kenneth Williams, you're challenged.
Well, not only hesitation, but I myself.
Well, all right, 1 will do, Kenneth. Hesitation was quite sufficient. Kenneth, there are 9 seconds for you. Taking photographs, starting now.
Taking photographs is very interesting and delightful pastime. I frequently do it when I'm on holiday, and the great thing
Clement
to remember...
Freud, why are you challenged?
I frequently do when I'm on holiday.
Yeah, but he challenged you not for he challenged you on hesitation, and that's why
I've challenged him for repetition.
And there's nobody challenged you on the eyes. I must give the benefit of the doubt in this case to Kenneth, who has another point, 2 seconds for taking photographs, starting now.
The great thing to remember is that you must have a good light. Oh, I must be in the lead now. I must be in the lead, eh?
No, you're still in a definite 3rd place, Kenneth. But you have caught up on the 2 leaders. Kenneth, hypnotism. That's an exciting subject for you, Kenneth. Will you talk on that now for 60 seconds, starting now?
Well, hypnotism, as I understand it, is controlling a person by looking at them and making certain movements with the hands or the eyes, and thus getting them to go under your power, become under your spell, so to speak, you see.
Geraldine Jones, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation? I call it a full stop.
I didn't hesitate, I was laughing. I just remember the last time I was put under somebody's power.
Well, I'm glad you've lost the subject in that case, because we would like to move on at this point. Kenneth?
Yes, we better move on.
If Kenneth can constrain himself for a second, I'll ask Geraldine Jones to continue with the subject of hypnotism for the next 43 seconds, starting now.
Kenneth Williams is probably the only person in the world who can practice hypnotism on himself and so render himself speechless in giggles. Normally, however, it's done by rather evil people who like the idea of getting other people completely in their power. And once...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
Deviation.
Why?
Because it's a medical science, not practice.
Yes, it is not necessarily evil. There might be evil people who practice it, is not generally evil. Clement, you have 29 seconds for hypnotism, starting now.
A lot of doctors who practice hypnotism are absolutely rotten doctors. I think I ought to make that quite clear. But the thing to do is to get a man or woman under your power by waving in front of him a bright object, a watch, even a tassel, possibly...
Very Nimmo, you challenge. Why?
Well, he hesitated on his tassel.
He did indeed.
How else can you hypnotize people? It's no good flashing a tassel.
I think it was a very good place to hesitate. So Derek Nimmo has a point. He has 12 seconds for hypnotism, starting now.
Hypnotism is an art which I quite frequently practice in my little small parlour. I get a little fellow in there, I say, come sit down here, chap, and I switch off the light.
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge? Yes. I'm afraid once you got in your parlour, you did hesitate, Derek. There are 4 seconds for you, Kenneth, on hypnotism, starting now.
This is done entirely...
Clement Freud, you challenge.
Hesitation.
No, Kenneth Williams has another point. He has 3 seconds for hypnotism, starting now.
This is the will prevailing...
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
He said he said it twice, you see. He said it once before he was challenged and just after he was
challenged. Yes, but once he
again.
starts again, he can say a little word like this another time. Kenneth has another point. He has 2 seconds for hypnotism, starting now.
The domination of the will through the eyes.
what a thrilling state of play we're at. That last round has put Kenneth Williams into the lead.
Oh, hooray! I never win usually.
Alongside Clement Freud and Derek Nimmo. That's why the situation is so exciting, Kenneth. So you'll have to keep your wits about you and see how we go from here. Clement Freud is going to begin the next round. A fascinating subject, stuttering. Can you try and talk in this game for 60 seconds on that subject, Clement, starting now?
Stuttering is a certain defect in the speech process which causes people not to be able to speak fluently and must on no account be mixed up with hesitation. I will therefore give you a short...
Kenneth Williams, you challenge.
Oh, yes, hesitation.
Yes. I thought he was going to say give you a short demonstration. I mean, almost you'd have got away with it. Kenneth, you have 45 seconds for stuttering, starting now.
A very eminent man once told me that this never occurred during the recital of lyrics or any form of poetry or song. And he moreover added that during a conversation with animals, one would...
Clement Freud, why do you challenge?
It's so dull.
Just because he's losing, you see. Oh, isn't it rotten? Can't take it, you see.
Dull is not a game, a point at which you can challenge this game, so I must automatically give it...
Thank you.
I'm not a ducky, Kenneth Williams.
Well, I mean, Daniel, come to judgment. Good for you, love, yes.
Ducky Daniel, rest. Kenneth, you have another point. You have 25 seconds for stuttering, starting now.
Those were a couple of instances I've just given you where stuttering does not occur, because you see the reason for this in the first place is fundamentally, of course, nervousness. And if one is nervous, one will...
Derek Nimmo, you challenged.
Double nervous.
Double nervous. Derek, you have another point. You have 10 seconds for the subject of stuttering, starting now.
It's something which I've been afflicted with all my life. More recently, however, I've been able to find that by stuttering I can pick up...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
Well,
no, actually, he was stuttering, and that is the subject, so I must, on this particular occasion, give it to Derek. And the audience agrees, so you needn't look like that.
They're only sorry for his impediment, Ducky. Getting the sympathy.
Well, if you want to be like that, then his impediment has gained him a point on this occasion.
So I shall come on with a crutch next.
Please keep your crutch out of this, Kenneth Williams, and we will get on with the game. Derek Nimmo. You've already taken your shoes off. That is quite enough to interest the audience. 4.5 seconds for stuttering, Derek, starting now.
It's very interesting when you come through a door, and instead of just saying hello, and if you say the fix.
Derek Nimmo, would you begin the next subject? It could almost be connected. It is called habits. I'm not called. That is the subject, habits. 60 seconds, starting now.
Habits are garments that are worn by people of various monastic orders. The Carthusians, the Salesians, the Franciscans, the Benedictines, the Dominicans, and so on. They tend to wear these medieval clothes, but not only men wear them, ladies wear them too. If a woman goes out riding, she wears a habit. Also, you have good ones and bad ones. A bad habit of mine, for instance, is to come along here one day a week and try to speak for 1 minute without hesitation and repetition and deviation on some unlikely subject that would be given to me.
Clement, why have you challenged?
It's repetition of the opening announcement.
Brilliant. Well, that, I think, is a very clever challenge that entirely deserves a point, Clement. Don't you agree, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, shut your mouth. An absolute disgrace.
Clement has a point. He has 20 seconds for habits, starting now.
One of my unfortunate habits is stuttering, which I was going to tell you about a little.
Derek Nimmo, why do you challenge?
Repetition of stuttering. By your definition.
Now, you see, this is a very difficult situation.
Well, you've landed yourself in it, darling.
All right, lovey, I'll give it over. All right. As Clement, I gave the benefit of the doubt to Clement last time. You have it this time, Derek Nimmo. You have another point, and you have 13 seconds for habits starting now.
Sometimes I go into a greenhouse with a little can of water and I squirt it onto tomato plants. This is a rather curious habit that I've fallen into in recent years. Other times, particularly on Wednesday...
Well, once again, Derek Nimmo was speaking when the whistle went, which gives him that bonus point, and gives him now a lead of 4 over Clement Freud and Kenneth Williams, who are equal in second place. Geraldine Jones, who is trailing a little, but perhaps you can make it up this time on the subject of sewing. A delightfully feminine subject, Geraldine. 60 seconds starting now.
Sewing is something I was forced to do for 2 very miserable years at school. I never in my life managed to finish a garment. I began a great number. Usually after a few weeks I'd take them home and thrust them upon my mother and say, please will you finish it for me? And as my mother is quite an accomplished seamstress, she found it almost impossible to do so because I'd made such an incredible mess of the thing in cutting it out all zigzag and awkward and sewing it up very uneven. The sewing mistress...
Derek, no, your challenge. Hesitation. Derek, there are 33 seconds for the subject of sewing, which we'd like you to talk about starting now.
There's nothing I enjoy doing more than sewing, particularly on a warm summer's afternoon, to go out into Hyde or even Green Park with my little sampler, my needle, and my little bit of cotton, and I thread it very delicately, and I put it into the piece of material. And I weave patterns of such beauty that you would be amazed. I have sewn pictures of garlands of flowers.
Geraldine Jones, why do you challenge?
Deviation, this is embroidery, not sewing.
I think that's a very clever challenge,
Derek.
Derek.
Oh, she's clever.
You have 6 seconds, you have another point, and the subject is sewing starting now.
Sewing is, of course, an enormously useful thing to be able to do, and this is partly why I always avoid doing it, because...
Derek Nimmo.
I thought I heard a bijou hesitation.
Yes, I thought you were extremely unchivalrous to challenge.
Yes, most ungallant, isn't it?
But you have 2 seconds for sewing starting now.
So when I run into an aeroplane...
So once again in that round, Derek has taken more points than anybody else, giving him an even bigger lead. Kenneth Williams, will you begin the next round for us? The subject is the rush hour. You seem all ready for it, so would you begin starting now?
I have had personal experience of the rush hour, and I'm here to tell you it's not funny. You get shoved up against people, they get shoved up against you. The B.O. is a... And moreover, in a spell like we're having recently, which is, you must admit, comparatively mild for the time of the year, yet the heating's all left on, just as if it was really freezing, then, of course, the smells are even more obvious. And I stand there and I find it appalling. Of course, I try to walk instead, but this often isn't convenient. You know, often we have to take public transport. Now, don't we? You'll agree about that. You take it yourself, Alex.
Clement, why have you challenged?
Deviation.
Why?
Well, he's talking to you instead of talking about...
Kenneth Williams can talk to whoever he wishes as long as he keeps to the point. So Kenneth has another point, and he has 17 seconds for the rush hour starting now.
And, of course, down the tubes they rush in their minutes like a load of ants, and it's quite incredible how politeness goes to the wind. I've stood in a cigarette queue. I mean, a ticket queue. I didn't mean cigarette queue. And this woman in front of me said she wanted to go to Bosca di San Giovanni, and I said, you can't go there, dear.
Clement has challenged you. Yes, there was absolutely everything, I think.
But it was quite good. I should do that
lovely,
again.
Yes.
It was quite good. They were liking it.
I wish we could ask you to finish, but I'm afraid you were guilty of a lot of crimes in this particular game, Kenneth. So Clement Freud has another point, and he has 3 seconds for rush hour starting now.
It happens between 8 and...
Kenneth Williams...
Hesitation.
No.
He didn't come in when you said from now.
He did indeed.
No, Derek Nimmo, you'll bear me out there. He didn't come in, did he?
No, he didn't.
Stop bringing other people...
There's a definite faction in this audience egging you on.
Yes, it
There's
is
a faction
you.
here egging you on.
You are egging me on, and I'm not going to be budged. Clement Freud has another point, and he has 2 seconds now for rush hour starting now.
And at 6 o'clock at night, there's a lot of...
Clement Freud, it's your turn to begin the next round. A subject that I think has been specially chosen for you, computerizing the kitchen. Can you talk on that subject? 60 seconds. You cannot refuse the subject, I'm afraid, so don't shake your head. You can start talking now.
Computerizing the kitchen is what some people call getting the saucepans in one end of the kitchen and the frying pans in the other. This is not, strictly speaking, what is meant by the subject. The idea of having a computer is to cut out the work that a housewife does by planning operations in such a way as to economize on time generally spent therein. And a computer set to cook breakfast, lunch...
Kenneth Williams, why do you challenge?
We've had to work computer several times. And moreover, the whole thing's very dull.
Kenneth, you don't have to play to the audience to get your points.
It's the subject.
No, computerizing the kitchen, Clement, is the subject, and you use the word computer twice. So Kenneth Williams gains a point. He has 33 seconds for computerizing the kitchen, starting now.
Yeah, well, this means, of course, that a robot will take over doing what the housewife did formerly, and I do not think this can be described as a good thing. Any housewife will tell you... Oh, I've repeated myself.
Clement Freud.
Hesitation after I repeated myself.
All right, you're being extra clever, Clement. On the same basis of the housewife, you have the subject back for 22 seconds for computerizing the kitchen, starting now.
Having cut out a card which is fed into this machine which is used to computerize the kitchen, you arrange to get breakfast, lunch, tea and dinner served to the family at regular intervals, fried crisply, boiled softly, garnished as you want it to be, and served by a number of people at exactly the right... Oh, do blow your...
Whistle! Well, as Clement Freud was speaking when the whistle went, then he gains another point. And the result, because that, I'm afraid, is the last round in this particular game, is reading it backwards. It's a very difficult job, but I always have to read the time backwards, so I'm getting used to it. Geraldine Jones was in 4th place this week. Clement Freud and Kenneth Williams were a very definite equal in 2nd place. And our winner this week by just 3 points was Derek Nimmo.
Good old Derek! Hooray! Amazing!
The chairman of Just a Minute was Nicholas Parsons. The programme was devised by Ian Messiter and produced by David Hatch.